This time yesterday, around about this time yesterday, we were bringing you the story of the Boeing 737 air crash in China. It claimed 132 lives. I spoke to a retired air accident investigation official who said he'd not seen a plane behave in the way this one did as it nosedived from level flight at 29,000 feet, hitting the ground almost vertically at 350 miles per hour. Today, friends and relatives began arriving at the crash site, and the Indian government said it would be putting 737 jets operated by various Indian airlines under what it described as close surveillance. We'll run the footage of the plane's final moments again, with the qualification that some viewers may find some of the footage distressing. And as we do that, let's turn to Captain Martin Chalk, a former BA pilot and the General Secretary of BALPA, the British Airline Pilots Association, the union for pilots, in other words. Thanks so much for your time. We always have to caveat these conversations with the usual qualifications: no black box recovered, or at least the content's not discussed yet. So there's a lot of speculation, but I always think it's necessary speculation. People do worry when they see stories like this, and they want to know what the answers might be.
Well, the worry is misplaced. One of the most secure things we do in our lives is climb on board any aeroplane operated by virtually any airline anywhere in the world. It's one of the safest activities we undertake at any point. So the worry is misplaced, and the speculation is also unhelpful. It is extremely rare for the sort of speculation that comes out at this point after an accident to be any way accurate. So it actually doesn't help. It doesn't help those where our hearts are at the moment, with those that have suffered, the families and friends of those who have suffered. It doesn't help those potential victims of the future avoid becoming victims. And it certainly doesn't help the industry recover from what is a tragic event.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that through, Martin. I mean, you know, if we think back to the 737 MAX planes, I mean, you're the expert in this, I'm just a layperson, but, you know, there were two crashes involving the 737 MAX that led to, I think, a global moratorium on further flights from the 737 MAX. And there was a technical problem. Again, you'll understand this far better than I will. Had there not been coverage about those crashes, and coverage is really hard to do, let me tell you, just by barely reporting the facts, the handful of facts that you have at any one time. Speculation is part of the warp and the weft of how we cover these stories. Because if you and I don't do it, other people will. It's just human nature. Why does a plane fall out of the sky and nosedive from 29,000 feet? I think it's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question that will be answered now by the air accident investigation authorities in China. They will work with the manufacturer, the engine manufacturer, the manufacturer of the avionics suite that the airplane was using, and all of that expertise will be brought together with all of the information that they can recover from the crash site. The black boxes, so-called, they're actually a day-glow colour in order that they're much more easily found. But those, along with any other information from air traffic control or eyewitnesses, they piece all of that together, and very carefully and with a lot of training, thought, experience, they will then come to realistic and well-based conclusions as to what might have been led to such a tragedy. And actually, at this stage, nobody can tell you what is likely to have happened. Anybody who tries to is making it up.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, Martin, I've never found a shortage of former airline pilots and other people who've worked in air accident investigation to come on and speculate. They do it, I think, sensitively, and they do it always heavily qualifying and caveating what they say. I mean, I just wonder, I totally understand your absolutely rational point that people, I hope, will agree with, which is what we shouldn't feed is the irrational fear of flying. I mean, it's, I always labour the point, I'm sure you've spent your life doing so, that it is pretty much the safest way per mile of travelling imaginable. But inevitably, there is always going to be public interest when something like this happens. And I maintain, I think there is a case for honestly, rigorously, and with an open mind, wondering why something as violent as this has happened without being sensationalist about it?
Yes, in fact, it is safer occasion by occasion than taking a bath. So one of the reasons that it has become that way is because the airline industry, the aviation industry, the wider industry, has taken a very safety first view. And I guess in part that is because when an aircraft, a civil airliner crashes, then there are lots of people affected all at the same time. And that's something that is newsworthy. It's also true that 1,800 or so people a year die on Britain's roads alone. If you multiply that up across the world, there are significantly more people perish on our roads across the world than ever do anywhere near an aircraft. And so because they tend to be 1, 2, 3, 4 at a time rather than much larger numbers, they don't get the same media exposure. But maybe if what we're concerned about is saving people's lives, we should produce the media exposure for the lessons we can learn on our roads rather than the lessons we can learn from this crash. Yeah. Although I have to say I have a lot of confidence that the Chinese authorities will learn the lessons from this accident, and that we will, all of us across the world, then benefit from them.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope they show a talent for transparency, which the Chinese Communist Party haven't always shown. Martin Chalk, thanks very much indeed. Scarlett Maguire alongside me now. Here's my problem with the kind of wait until the authorities deal with it, then we'll tell you, the old chap, is that actually nobody will give a toss in 3 months. And that's why you have to deal with the story now. Otherwise, it gets forgotten about.
Also, I think it's really important that I think you're absolutely right, that we have to know, we have to begin to work out what happened, because otherwise there are too many people saying air safety is fine. I mean, actually, because of the arguments about roads, road safety in Britain is much, much safer over the last 10 years. Far fewer people die. There used to be a jumbo jet.
I do a lot more stories about smart motorways than I do about planes falling out of the sky.
Precisely. And trains, please. I mean, in the last few decades in Britain, wonderful. But I think we have to know. I mean, 600 people, hundreds of people died yesterday.
132.
132. I mean, we have to know for them, we have to know the answer.
Yeah, I'm hearing a producer say in my ear, suspected deaths, but I think we can say with conviction, sadly, they're likely to be confirmed, aren't they?